How about a Monday edition of Alive, Locked On Lions Squad Show? Jake Riepma, Natalie, Kerwin, Bradford Banta, fired up to be with you. And some of the storylines today, Dan Skipper calls it a career. Nat, it's sad, but it's true.
I know. I don't know if I'm more sad about him leaving or Dan Campbell not being able to give him shout outs in his locker room speeches in the background. So sad for him, but we'll break it all down. Bradford?
Bradford Banta here. I tell you what, Dan Skipper officially retiring, which means Lions lost a swing tackle, gained possibly a future coach, and somewhere a ref is still waiting for him to report eligible.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
Hey, good to be with you on a Monday edition of Alive, Locked On Lions Squad Show. Jake Riepma, Natalie, Kerwin, and Bradford Banta on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. What a show we have lined up. Dan Skipper calls it a career. Where is Alex Anzalone heading? We'll discuss that. Jim Costa of 97.1 The Ticket, the Costa and Jansen show. Let me catch up on my 97.1 The Ticket programming. Been a while, but
he's been in Dallas too long, guys. He's not even keeping up on his Michigan stuff anymore.
Unbelievable. That's not true. You look at my recent YouTube history. I'm streaming The Ticket all the time. Don't you guys worry. But great show. Shout out to Jim Costa that will join us in just a little bit here. But hopefully you guys stayed warm over the weekend. Freezing cold temperatures. I know snowy Dallas. I'm somehow, some way making my way through it all, but can't say the same for most Texans. Nat, did we see some skiing this weekend as well, making the most of the weather?
Yeah, we did. I was one of the crazy people that actually headed up to northern Michigan where the snow was even worse. So I did the opposite of hunkering down inside my house and went north. But as you can imagine, the snow conditions were great. I went up to Boyne Mountain.
Okay.
So, which I love that place. It's awesome. Great resort, lots of restaurants and bars, things to do. And I'll give you guys this little inside scoop. They just opened up a brand new bar at the top of the hill called the Igloo. It's literally a man-made igloo. And the way they made it is insane. We got the whole rundown from one of the bartenders. But there's like two giant domes, and you walk in and there's still heaters in there, but somehow it doesn't melt. And it's crazy. You sit on ice blocks. They have these fur blankets that you sit on. The drinks in there are super cool. It was packed, but it was
cool or are they cold?
Addition to Boyne Mountain.
I love it.
You didn't hear me, did you?
No, what'd you say?
Are the drinks cool or are they cold? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
okay.
Cool and they're cold.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah, we had a blast though. Great snow and good times. We were with some good family friends. So it was a big annual, family ski trip that we do every year at the end of January. So.
Yeah, I saw some posts of Nub's Knob over the weekend. It would look like an absolute blizzard was going on at the top of the mountain. How was it at Boyne, weather-wise?
Yeah, it was. I was skiing in -1 degree weather on Saturday and Friday. So that's the kind of psychopath behavior that I have. But I love skiing. So I got to go when I can around my busy schedule. So it worked out. We came home on Saturday night because I worked the Pistons game yesterday. But I'm glad we came home on Saturday because the snow conditions were even worse yesterday driving home. And I felt bad because our family friends, it took them, they're from Ohio. And what was supposed to be a 5-hour drive for them, it took them 9.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Crazy. So anyway,
driving like some Texans 25 miles per hour.
I know. Well, it must have been the people around them too, though, that were driving slow. So who knows? But that was how we handled this weekend.
Fall in line. That's all you do.
No doubt. Well, guys, right after we concluded our second show last week, we had the Dan Skipper news calling it a career, retiring, and I sent in the group chat, he couldn't have waited another like half hour, and we could have touched on it almost in real time, a little breaking news action. We would have, leaned heavily on Natalie's Michigan State journalism over there on the breaking news side of things. But now we've had the weekend to think about it. I know my initial reaction was kind of sad, I guess nostalgic. I'll always think of him in the big man touchdown against Buffalo. And obviously, like Bradford said in the intro, reporting eligible. There's so many. I feel like he has more stories than a lot of offensive linemen. And we know about the contributions he makes from a locker room standpoint, big chemistry guy and everything else. But Nat, I'll kick it to you first. Kind of maybe not necessarily shocking, but still, the next step becomes, all right, who's the next man up as far as how the team begins to plan to replace a Dan Skipper.
Yeah, I had the same reaction you did. It was like, what? He's going to retire? Because obviously you get the news in the last year about Frank Ragnow, and then you're thinking about, before next season, is Taylor Decker going to take the same route? And now you hear Dan Skipper is actually doing that. So it's hard because, as you said, I think he is the number one guy on that team that has the most just stories about him, the leader that guys look at. And in my intro, what I was alluding to was when Dan Campbell yelled at him in the back when he was throwing up in the trash can and said, "Keep throwing up back there, Skip." Like, that's one of my favorite moments. Like when Dan, it was just a perfect segue in the middle of his speech. I'm like, that was just a classic Skip. But he is a guy, obviously, that gives you more depth on your O-line, and he is that reliable swing tackle and a guy that just gives that veteran presence for this group. And it's hard to replace somebody like that. And so I'm happy for him that he wants to stay in coaching, as his next step. And maybe that means he joins the Lions staff somehow. Who knows what the next step is, but I was surprised to see that news come across because I didn't think it was supposed to be the end of his career quite yet. Because let's see, 69 games, 16 starts. I just didn't think it was the end of an era yet for Skip.
You had an inkling of it at the end of the season, I think, a little bit. And, he's had a great career. And from my understanding, just from what I read, is he was dealing with some possible lower back issues. And I mean, I don't know if y'all have ever had lower back issues, but they are not fun. And just for them to become chronic and to last throughout the rest of your life, and then with him able to set up possibly a second career, and then we'll see if he comes onto the Lions staff. I'm not sure. And forgive me for not knowing this, but whoever the assistant O-line coach is, I don't know. Or if the Lions have an opening on their offensive staff, or they just bring him onto staff in general in possibly a quality control type role. He's definitely putting his toes in the water out at the East-West Shrine game as a coach out there. And that's literally probably putting the very tip of your big toe in the water as far as coaching is concerned. Whenever you coach an all-star game, you're going to coach the guys up, and you're going to get the best of the best coming out to prove their worth. But I will tell you this: having played and coached in the all-star games, it's a different experience. We had a funny comment was we had whenever I was playing in the East-West game, they had was it Lavelle? God, who was it? Who was the longtime BYU coach? Was it Lavelle Edwards?
Yeah, that's what they named the stadium after it. I was just there. Come on, Bradford.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to my.
Well, no, God, Jake, this was like third. Oh, geez.
In Provo, Utah?
2, 3. It was like
Friday
30-something years ago.
action?
It was 30-plus years ago. Give me a break. So Lavelle was the head coach for our team. Steve Spurrier was the head coach for the other team. And our first team meeting, Lavelle got up before the team and he's like, hey, I promise you that we are not going to practice longer than the other team. If we see them walking off the field, then our practice is done no matter where we are in practice. But, like I said, he's sticking the tip of his big toe into the coaching world. Now, if he goes full-fledged, he'll go on full-time on somebody's staff, whether it be in college or the NFL. And I think he'll definitely be able to draw on his experiences. And God knows, I mean, Nat alluded to it. I mean, just he's got vast experiences for only having started, 16 games. So it's I think somebody would definitely benefit from his knowledge of the game.
Absolutely a value add to any staff that he would join. Just like Jim Costa will be a value add to a live Locked On Lions squad show. We will talk with 97.1 The Ticket's Jim Costa next, right here on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Hey, today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. The big game, that's right, the big game is almost here. No better way to stay locked in to every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it feels good to be right. And with football season coming down to its final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it on out. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. There's no drafts, there's no waiting around. It's just football. Good for football guys like you and I. Just football action all the way through the playoffs. Prize Picks is incredibly easy to get started. You pick two or more players, you choose more or less on their projections, and you'll watch the winnings roll on in. It's a great way to keep playing fantasy football even after the season-long leagues are over with. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code LOCKEDON-NFL. That's code LOCKEDON-NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDON-NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, time now to welcome on today's special guest. You hear him every morning on 97.1 The Ticket. Costa and Jansen. Jim Costa joining us. Thanks so much for hopping on. And the first question's easy. Are you doing okay after the Detroit Rams came up a little bit short? And I know that's your guy. He's still probably the MVP, but you all right this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing well. It's funny. I was hoping we'd make this work in season, but there's a lot to talk about now for the Lions off season. So pumped to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, don't worry. You know, we are not shy when it comes to in season, off season. You know, I'll be hitting you up, and by the time all those texts continue to come in, you're like, "Gosh, dang it!"
It's block your number.
Yeah, it's Riepma again. I cannot get rid of this.
We
guy.
won't blame you, Jim.
Yeah,
yeah. I have to message them on my burner account because they get so sick of hearing me. But I guess let's just start right there. A little weekend recap. I mean, we still have some football going on. You had the kind of the cream of the crop in the NFC. And a lot of people feel like those were the best two teams remaining in the Rams-Seahawks game. A great defense against a great offense. Ultimately, Seattle getting the win. When you watch it, are you kind of looking at it through a lens of, okay, this is what the Lions need to do to get here next year?
Oh, absolutely. At that point, everything we're dreaming of a Super Bowl. So everything's through the lens of how do the Lions close the gap? How do they get in this game and win this game and play the next game? And I mean, one of my big takeaways, just starting with that, is, look, if Sam Darnold can do it, Jared Goff can do it. You know, Sam Darnold was third in the league in picks, 95 total rushing yards. You don't have to be Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes mobility to play in a Super Bowl. But what they did is they supported him, right? It's clear that they had complementary football. They ran the ball effectively all season. Their defense was tenacious. So if he can do it, we can do it, but there's a lot of work that's going to need to be done for the Lions to have a roster that's playing as well as Seattle.
Jim, we were just talking about Dan Skipper before you got on here and the news of him stepping away from the game, maybe going into coaching now. But what was your first reaction when you heard that news?
Yeah, kind of one of those like cult heroes, right? I mean, there's so many stories that go with him, and everybody remembers the Dallas game, but likable dude, and not a surprise that he wants to get into coaching. So I don't know where that journey begins, but if he's as dedicated to it as he's been, look, think about it. His pro career was anything but glamorous, bouncing around practice squads, cut from this team, cut from that. If you're willing to do that, you're going to be willing to put in the work it takes to be a good coach. So excited to see how it goes for him.
Jim, I just, first and foremost, I just want to apologize to you for having to work with John Jansen. So that's I know John very well. We have a very good relationship, and just be aware that I have a call out to him to be on this show. So any statements you make, he's going to have a chance to counteract.
Oh, he loves doing that.
So, believe me, I understand that to the
he doesn't miss
degree.
A chance.
No, there's not. But just all right, talking about the Lions here. So, but give me like a bold but reasonable prediction for the Lions offseason. Let's say a surprise re-signing, cap move, or in your mind, possible draft priority.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. They're going to restructure Jared Goff's contract. It would be silly to walk into next year with a $69 million cap hit. So what are you going to do with it? And there may be some other restructures because you're going to need to free up quite a bit of cap space. I think the number one target's center. I think Linderbaum makes a lot of sense. Now, he may stay in Baltimore. He may go with John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. But how about a name that's not Linderbaum that I think would still be an impactful piece? It's McGovern, the center for Buffalo. Their O-line coach is retiring. They got a coaching staff change. He's still in the prime of his career. You don't mess around with a rookie. You get a proven veteran commodity to steady the center, the interior of this offensive line.
Jim Costa is with us on the live Locked On Lions squad show, chopping it up, a little Lions off-season discussion here. Kind of, Jim, following up on that, just continuing the conversation with, moves we'd love to see. And I know you guys aren't shy about it on 97 Won the Ticket. That's what, as Izzo famously put it, the talk radio idiots, that's what we're for, to scream into the microphone of what we want to have happen. And we do it all, twice a week on the Locked On Lions squad show. But how do we get, the ball into the end zone, to use a cheesy cliche, where Brad Holmes in the front office, feel the need to make not even drastic moves, but significant moves while balancing everything that we saw in season of the famous, no, we're good. But do you see like any kind of light at the end of the tunnel that we're getting to a place that this front office is not, of course not, letting the criminals run the prison by any means, but just closer to being more open to moves?
Yeah, look, I think urgency needs to be reflected when you talk about chasing the Super Bowl. It's not just drafting well, it's the total complete overhaul of, you got to trade for guys, you have to sign guys. I think Seattle's a great example. So a year after Stafford was traded from Detroit, Seattle traded Russell Wilson. And since that season, they've replaced the all-22. Everybody that plays offense, everybody that plays defense. They told Bobby Wagner, see ya. They brought him back and then told him, see ya again. That's a guy whose jersey is going to be retired. That's a legend in Seattle. And they weren't afraid to say, hey, if it doesn't make sense for us, we'll make the tough call. We'll move on. I think it's 5 of their top 6 cap hits on this current team are players they didn't draft. So it's you have to draft well, and they have. But what are you going to do to supplement it? So they added Leonard Williams. They added DeMarcus Lawrence. They added one of their starting linebackers and one of their starting safeties. That's not to mention their starting quarterback and one of their receivers in Cooper Kupp. You can draft well. Brad Holmes has done that. No one would dispute that. I have to keep doing that. But then can you make a tough decision? Can you bring in players from outside the organization and truly test your culture, but bring in guys that can get you to one notch higher, one step further? And I think a name to watch is going to be Taylor Decker. When we talk about cornerstone players, he was drafted here. He spent his career here. He's beloved. He's a culture guy. If they make him a post-June 1 cut, they save $18 million. Now, you got to replace him, but that's some of what teams like Seattle will do is say, it's too much. We shouldn't be allocating that there. We're going to make what's a tough call or even a cutthroat call. But that's one of those moves to watch as the offseason gets going here. Even if he doesn't want to retire, it doesn't mean the Lions have to choose to bring him back. What
do you expect the Lions to do then at pick 17 in the draft? What do you think?
Yeah, so then wouldn't that pair up well with, if you're going to add the center in free agency, if you're going to move on from a potential left tackle, you got to address the offensive line. And I think if it slots well, you would take a tackle at 17. And the other thing I would stress is, if it doesn't slot perfectly, you can make it fit. So what I mean by that is, in 2024, Brad Holmes drafted for both need and best player available in his mind with Terry and Arnold by trading up. So if there's a tackle that they covet, and if a guy's going top 5, there's really nothing you can do. But if there's a guy sitting there at 12, 13, 14, and you got some intel, take a leap, go get a guy. And if it's Maui Noah's the big tackle out of Miami, I know you referenced John Jansen. He really likes him. Big, physical, mauler, right tackle. You could move Sewell to left tackle. That'd be a name I'd look to, is making sure you keep that offensive line, and not keep it, but make it even better, because it needs to be a strength of this football team.
No, that's definitely a great point. And you bring up a good point, talking about Seattle, talking about their all-22 and just a complete washing that they've had. And, and then with the addition of Mike McDonald coming in there in a leadership position, I think it really helped to re-solidify what the organization was really going for. And, because Pete Carroll, I mean, he will forever be known in Seattle as one of the greatest coaches there. But then Mike comes in and then puts his stamp on it, how he knows how to do it. They've done a good job. And then going out and then getting Darnold to come in and just produce. You don't have to go win games, but the way they've done it, and I'll just give you an example with the defensive line, is something that I wish the Detroit Lions would possibly take into account. They have 8 to 9, and I'll say it, dogs on the defensive line, where I'd say Detroit has 2, maybe.
Right.
Where they can just keep rotating guys in and out. And it's, I know Aiden signed this contract that for umpteen $1 million. But if you just go out and you sign, let's just say it's 7 additional, 3 to 4 star type players, using high school references here. And just, hey, you're going to play probably 15 to 20 snaps a game, but those 15 or 20 snaps, you're going all out.
Yeah.
And
I think
why we're bringing you here.
Yeah, I think one thing that builds on that point is Aiden, whatever you think of him, I think he's very good, maybe borderline great, but he plays like 95% of snaps.
I know.
And yes. I wonder, and I'm sure you've wondered about this, if he played 85% of snaps, could he be even more impactful? Could he get to the quarterback quicker? Because the pressures that Detroit created aren't all created equal. You got to get to the quarterback within 2.5 seconds. It can't be 4 seconds, can't be 4.5 seconds. That's not a way to consistently force stops and takeaways. Is there a way to dial Aiden's snap count down 10%, but get 15, 20% more production? He's already very productive, but that gets him to another level. But you don't want to take him off the field unless you got the bodies to do it. So I think you're right to point to, hey, can we get a couple more dudes on this D-line? And it can't just be we're good. It can't be, hey, Aleem McNeil off the ACL. I expect him to be better, but I don't want to bank on it. Tyleek Williams, second year in the league. Should he be better next season? He better be. But I don't want to just bank on it and say, hey, we're good. We've got Pascal and Onzarike and bring Davenport back for a year. You have to learn your lesson. You can't fall in love with your own. I think Seattle helps illustrate that point. But regardless of if Seattle won or wins the Super Bowl, it's a lesson Detroit needs to learn either way.
No doubt, no doubt. And that's one thing I've been, it's a perfect segue, and we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet, but just the recent conversation around Alex Anzalone, who I've loved in a Lions uniform. He's meant a lot to this defense, but, maybe a little bit long in the tooth, and, what his future in the NFL is as far as number of years left. Maybe it doesn't make sense to be a part of the Lions moving forward and to get, that next contract. So I'm wondering just kind of if I guess, if you feel that same way and you think he might be one of the guys that we see in a different uniform next year, and what, how the Lions could potentially adjust to a loss like that.
Yeah, and call it what it would be. It'd be a tough call because everybody likes him. They played a lot of 3 linebacker sets this year. I think that also countered the trend where you saw more teams running 13 personnel. But the Lions got a lot of legwork out of their linebackers. They were not playing as much nickel as the traditional NFL, paradigm shift had been. So you don't want to lose one of those starting linebackers. But it does just go back to what's the dollars and cents. If we're already in a cap crunch, if we have to prioritize O&D line, maybe we got to find a way to replace Anzalone with somebody else at a lower number. And I'm sure you guys saw, I don't know how true it is, but it makes sense that the Jets would be a good landing spot for Anzalone with Aaron Glenn. If they're willing to pay more, they have more cap space. Detroit already kind of put their cards on the table last year at camp. They weren't willing to restructure his deal in a significant way. It would stand to reason he's one of those guys that just gets squeezed out.
Yeah, and maybe he could get an interception for the Jets because they I think are the only team in NFL history, right? But Jim, we know you got a busy schedule. We'll let you go.
One last thing, if I can throw something at you guys, we got a call today and said one of their takeaways was Dan Campbell needs to take the points more often, saying that Sean Payton screwed up not taking points early. I disagreed with that. And that Sean McVay should have kicked a field goal in the last 5 minutes, even though they were still trailing. I was cool with both coaches going for it. They just didn't execute. But I'd ask you guys, is that a takeaway from this weekend that Dan needs to dial it back a little bit and take points?
I want to hear what Bradford has to say.
Yeah. Okay. No. So analytics is there as a tool. Is it the end all be all? No, it is not. There were point in time, especially when Dan took over the play calling, that he automatically went for it whenever the game conditions where you should just take the points and just go kick off and let's go play defense. But you have to have a feel for the game on when to do that and when to go for it and when to take the points. And I thought personally that with Dan calling the plays, he had a harder time getting a feel for the when to take the points or when to go for it. And I think that's a reason why he brought in Petzing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move. As
too.
much as the fan base, I'm not going to go on the Amon-Ra St. Brown rant, but I think this is a good move. It's an under the radar move. It's an underrated move, but I think it's going to pay dividends once the season gets started and once Petzing starts installing his offense and he sees how he wants things run. And look, I know Dan and Johnny Morton were good friends and they were on the same staffs together and they knew each other and all this kind of stuff. But you're bringing in a seasoned play caller that I can foresee that Dan is going to learn from the Anthony Lynn and Johnny Morton hire. How can I be more on the same page? How can I equate it more to being on the same page with Ben Johnson like I was so that I can just manage the game? Because that's what a head coach is supposed to do. Now, I know there's head coaches that can do both, but I think that a head coach is just supposed to manage the game. But that's an underrated hire that I think is going to pay dividends.
I like that a lot. I liked the hire a lot too, but I like kind of tying those two things together because I think they weren't as successful on fourth down this year when they went for it. And that's because I don't think they were as dangerous a team running the ball and setting up play action. Well, that's one of the things they did very well in Arizona, right? When you look at Petzing and if they can marry, hey, we're going to be better converting those fourth downs because of his scheme and his philosophy. And then Dan, I do think felt a little strained and pulled in too many directions, gets freed up to make the best decisions. Yeah, I don't really have an issue if you have an offense that can convert those on a 4th and 2, 4th and 3, certainly 4th and 1 going for it. Where you get squirrely, you're right, is it can't just be automatic. It can't be 4th and 5. We got a long game, take some points. But I just thought it was an interesting takeaway because Sean Payton's getting killed.
As he should.
I disagree with that, but I know I'm kind of on an island with this. My thought on it was, hey, Jake, I know what you're going to say, what a lot of people said. Go up 2 scores. You got a backup quarterback, a blizzard's coming.
A lot of people are saying that because, a lot of people know the game, and then it makes a lot of sense.
Sure. And I'll be the non-ball knower who just says this. You needed more than 10 to win the game. What's your best chance to score a touchdown? Is it a yard when the conditions are good, or is it in a blizzard later in the game? Because a field goal, they needed to score at some point. Their best chance, they didn't execute it, was a 4th and 1. Now, look, both guys get blown up in the A-gap, plays dead, but for a yard, it's your best chance to put some more points on the table. You weren't winning with 7 or 10, so that's why I defended it. Now, most people are killing him. The other one was McVay, and it's 5 minutes to go, 4th and 4. I got the MVP. I'm at the 6-yard line. If I don't score here, all right, but is it better play to kick a field goal, still be losing, get the ball with 30 seconds, and then try to set up a field goal? It's 4 yards. I got the MVP. I'm going to try to win the football game.
That one I don't disagree with you as much, which going back to the Denver game, does anybody have a weather radar? Not once on the broadcast did they mention, hey, there could be snow coming. Like, that was the most surprise blizzard of all time, which I did have on my list. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it, so I'm just going to now and just be disrespectful of your time. Because I said
That's
earlier,
okay. I signed up for this.
Yeah, or I said earlier we'll be respectful. Now I'm going to be disrespectful, so it evens it out. But I love snow football. We all do. But we can't have a snow game
for yourself.
Yeah, I love watching.
Bradford, you had some rough experiences in the snow.
We can't have that deciding who goes to the Super Bowl. We got to figure out a way for that not to happen in an AFC championship game like that.
So here's where I'll meet people. I think it can look really cool. A snow game can look cool, and it puts all this wonder. And when the fourth quarter is 8 possessions and none of them go for more than 17 yards, it's not a fitting way to determine a tense, close football game when you can't run, you can't pass, you can't kick, and we're all just, it's a game of Pong. It's just back and forth. Back. No one's going anywhere. No one's moving. It's just pitter patter, footprints in the snow. I'm cool with playing in the elements in the wind. That became so disruptive to the game that it became unwatchable.
I disagree. I mean, it's supposed to be
entertaining.
Say again?
You found that entertaining.
Well, look, I think it boils down to who can weather the proverbial storm.
Neither team did. No one did anything.
Yeah, but, well, that's their own fault. I mean,
whoever had the lead
was
going to win the game. Whoever had the lead when the blizzard hit was going to win the game.
You actually thought that?
That's what happened. No one could move the ball.
No, I'm asking if you actually thought that.
I think if Denver was up 10-7, they win the game.
Had they kicked the field goal?
Well, there's your field goal, Jay.
Did they not miss one?
They did.
That
As
was
the conditions got progressively worse, no one could do anything. Stop being about playing and executing a football game. And
because I mean, I was involved in the game. I was involved in the Philadelphia snow game, Lions snow game.
Yeah.
Where I was up in the box during that. But you could not see our guys on the field because it was snowing so hard, because we were wearing silver pants, white jerseys, and with the silver helmets. And you could not see them either on the pictures or you couldn't see them on the field. We had to radio down to figure out who the receivers were on the far side of the field. And because we were on the home sideline press box, and they had to physically tell us who was there. So we were just drawing stuff up. We could have been just playing tic-tac-toe up in the box, because we were just a no-go. And I mean, that if we would not have tried an extra point with Jason Hansen, I forgot what quarter it was in, we missed it. If we would not have tried an extra point, that would have been the first game in like 50 or 60 years that an extra point try was not attempted in a game. Wow. That it would have made history. So, but I think that it's funny we bring this up because my wife brought it up to me last night, talking about a neutral site for the championship game. And I was like, you can't do it. You can't do it, because I know the bowl games in college is doing that. But they don't want something like that to decide. It's whoever perseveres, because the game is meant to be played in the elements. And look, Denver earned through the regular season the right to have all their home games throughout the playoffs, with the exception of the Super Bowl, which is at a neutral site. So grant them that right and be prepared. You know what the game was going to be, and they knew what the weather forecast was going to be in the second half. Now,
The broadcast sure as hell didn't.
well, shame on them.
I
Shame
know.
on
that's
them.
Or they
crazy.
did, and they just chose not to talk about
Yeah.
it.
The poor
Yeah.
Tracy Wolfson's down there, reporting with, the snow hitting her in the face and then switching around,
I know. But I just think that it's meant to be played, at the home stadium, no matter what the elements are. Take it for what it's worth. That's my opinion.
All right. Bradford Banta with the last word there. And hey, Jim, this has been awesome, man. We appreciate you hopping
Of course,
on.
I owed you guys. You reached out. I was busy. I'll make it up to you. So,
Hey,
anytime.
well, thank you. Then I'm going to go ahead and ruin our great chemistry and relationship. I see the Central Michigan helmet in the corner. Great game above Sports Bowl at Ford
Oh,
Field.
This
Go
Northwestern
Cats.
guy.
Go Cats. Go Cats.
Yeah, Bradford, to your point, that game could have been played in a blizzard. Our team wasn't going to move the ball inside either way. So.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I know. And then Slim Shady decided we forgot how to tackle in the second half. So that's what I do remember about that.
All right, Jim, we'll run it back sometime, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep,
Thanks,
keep
guys.
giving Jansen hell there on the ticket. Say hi to everybody.
We'll do. Thanks, guys.
All right.
There he goes. Jim Costa, 97 won the ticket. Always a good time. Always up for a good debate, good argument. That's why he's driving the morning show there on the Lions flagship radio station. 97 won the ticket. Great interview. Appreciate Jim hopping on there. We'll keep it rolling and little debrief session, little run it back, more Anzalone talk. We'll just keep it rolling here on this snowy Monday live Locked On Lions Squad show. Back in just a minute. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad show is brought to you by Indeed. It's time to find a new host for the program, and Indeed is ready to help you. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed's sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If you need to hire someone for this show, go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what you need. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job seen, well, Indeed sponsored jobs helps you, and it helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates even faster. Sponsored jobs boost your posts so the people who are the best match for your role, they see it, and that makes a real difference. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Lions Squad show. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, we keep it rolling on this Monday edition of the Locked On Lions Squad show. Thanks to Jim Costa for hopping on. Love the conversation, love the debate, love the insight, and obviously he does this for a living, so good to have on here.
I thought it was a great interview.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be ending the segment talking about the snow elements, but here we are. And that was the thing we got into the most heated debate about.
Yeah, no doubt. And I love talking about it. And it's just it's fun to bring up conversations like that and have heated debate and just have a healthy discussion talking about the elements of the game. Is it boring football? Yeah, but you never know what's going to happen. And where they slip sliding around out there, yeah, get longer cleats or playing tennis shoes, one of the two, whatever gives you the best grip. And that's where the behind the scenes element of the games start to happen. on who can get the upper hand just on those little things that may make a difference, because you know it's going to be a tight game. And that's what it ended up being. And it could have been a tied game if that field goal was not tipped, for all we know. So it could have gone into overtime. So, hey, is what it is.
I found myself, because I think, I don't remember if I tweeted something about it or not. Not that anybody sees my tweets. The algorithms got me messed up, man. The same people like and share my stuff. It's the same guy every time. I'm like, man, what is going on here? And then nobody.
On here.
Yeah, but I was never been a controlled climate guy, but I found myself like, maybe the retractable roof is the perfect answer, because I like it being outside. I like the elements that you're alluding to, but when you get those retractable roofs, like the Cowboys stadium is an example, plenty of baseball stadiums, it really is like a hole in the top of the stadium. You still have the and let me nerd out.
It is.
Yeah. You get the best of both worlds. You get like the soccer style. You even see this in it's not CenturyLink anymore in Seattle, but wherever they play, Lumen Field. It's got like the side archway that, they say it's for the noise and everything, but I think that's a happy medium where the elements aren't going to completely destroy any ability to move the football down the field either way. But I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry.
I'm team retractable roof. I'm with you there. Specifically here in Detroit, I appreciate when we're in the heart of winter in December, these cold games being in a warm, enclosed stadium.
You do.
Bradford, you're going to have a different opinion than Jake and I on this. I already know it. So let me finish and then it's your turn. As a fan, I appreciate being warm inside. But to your point as well, football is supposed to be in the elements, played outside. So there also is something to, for example, in college football, you are outside a cold, crisp fall day. Like there's something to being in the stands watching a football game. Like there's something to that too. So I see it from both perspectives, but talking about this weekend with those elements may have been better inside. If you had the option of a retractable roof, I would have closed the roof. Bradford, now you go.
If that were the case, name the one team in the NFL that should enclose their field immediately. And they're in our division.
I'll say there's a huge discussion about the Bears and what's going to happen with their stadium. They might be moving to Gary, Indiana.
Further north. Could you imagine Lambeau Field being enclosed?
Well, that's the first one that came to mind when you just asked that question. I thought people would throw a fit if Lambeau had a dome.
Thank you. So, okay, and then let's reverse course here. So let's go down south. All right. Or let's go out to the Southwest. Playing out in Arizona in September, or preseason game in August. What do you think about playing outdoors there?
The Cardinals, isn't that one retractable?
Yeah, it is. How many times have you seen it open?
I mean, I can't name off the top of my head.
I don't know.
I feel like when Michigan and TCU played there, was the roof open in that one?
No. I can attest.
Before,
I was a first-hand eyewitness for that one.
That's why I brought that one up, because I knew you were in there, boots on the ground style.
Yeah. So because whenever I was at SC, we would play Arizona in Tucson. We would play Arizona State at Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, and they would purposely schedule noon, 1 o'clock games, just for that reason, because you would be coming over to the sidelines and you would just be like, because it was just straight cottonmouth, because the air was so dry and it was so hot that you just like, give me water. I mean, you're just drinking straight Gatorade. You're not drinking any water, because once you drink water, the cottonmouth's going to return. At least Gatorade leaves a little bit of a film in your mouth that you can just go out there and and play again. But I mean, so Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, all those teams down in Florida, with the heat and humidity. And I would say Carolina, but now you're starting to get a little bit further north, and you have, nice, as Jake put it, nice crisp fall days that get extended into the month of November and possibly even December.
That was Nat with the
Oh, I'm sorry.
vocab. Yeah, I don't disagree with it. I'm right there with you though. But all right, let's keep the train rolling. We've got one more segment here on a Locked On Lions squad show. Talk a little more Detroit Lions football when we come back right here on a live Locked On Lions squad show. All right, this episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Got to make sure I get that one word for word. It's all caps. Must be read word for word, or you're in big trouble. So we don't want me getting in big trouble again and again and again and again. Wouldn't be the first, wouldn't be the last. But all right, final segment here. We've talked some indoor outdoor discussion. We've talked some Dan Skipper. I had Jim Costa on, but we haven't talked a ton about Alex Anzalone and him potentially moving on and what that looks like. Obviously, he's a free agent, and Jim brought up that when it was at least discussed to restructure his contract with the Lions last year, to no avail, and it kind of may perhaps have been the writing on the wall. I think the Jets make a lot of sense with a reunion with Aaron Glenn. So Bradford, I'll kick it to you first. End of a player's career, or at least getting closer and closer. You probably definitely more than me and more than that can take us inside the thought process of a player and just kind of not even negotiating, but just weighing the different options of what that looks like towards kind of the back nine of his career.
Yeah. So Alex was drafted in 2017. So he's going to be going into year 10 of his career. He's been with two teams so far. He's been with New Orleans Saints and then also Detroit Lions. He has had a very productive career with both clubs. He has developed more as a leader with the Detroit Lions, and they've put him in these positions, and he has come out and he has produced. For him to be reunited with Aaron Glenn again, I think could possibly be a plus for him personally and for Aaron Glenn as well, just as far as bringing someone in who understands the culture that Aaron Glenn wants to produce on the defensive side of the ball. But there's a lot that can go on within the next, free agency starts March 11th at 4 p.m. So you're talking 40, possibly 50 days until free agency starts. So there's a lot that can go on right now. And Alex was an integral part of this Detroit defense from the simple aspect, and Jim talked about it, about the amount of base personnel that the Detroit Lions played. Having Alex out there allowed them to play that much base because Alex was so good at covering backs, tight ends, man to man. And it allowed Campbell to do his things, and it allowed Barnes to do his thing whenever they were out there. What it all depends on is what is Alex's asking price going to be, and are the Lions, one, willing to either one, match it, or two, are they willing to negotiate with him? That's the question that has to be answered. And that's the question that Brad Holmes is asking himself right now, because it's at some point they're going to open up talks with Alex's agent, and everybody has to keep in mind that it's a business and you have to treat it as such. It's not how they think of you personally. It's how they think that how the club can use your services to help them get where they want to go. That's going to be the key. And if they foresee that being a plus for the Detroit Lions, then by all means, they are going to negotiate with Alex Anzalone. If they see him starting to leak a little bit of oil, and with the late season injury that happened, that could possibly just be the onset of what is to come, then they may pull a page from the New England Patriots, and they were good at it in the heyday of getting rid of a player a year before he started leaking oil. And are they going to do that? So that's a couple questions, but just the thought process from a player's perspective, there's a lot of apprehension. The Anzalones have a family now. I would imagine that Alex has a home base, so to speak. I would assume down in Florida, and just because he went to the University of Florida. But then, okay, what's my next step going to be in my career? And he has to be prepared for both, either staying here in Detroit or possibly going to another club and playing there. But he will be playing. He will be playing next season.
I'm curious to see what will happen, because he's said on multiple occasions with the media how much he loves Detroit and likes being here. And so, I mean, and he said it towards the end of the season too in some interviews. So with that being said, though, he does have a good relationship with Aaron Glenn from what I've read. And so it wouldn't surprise me either if he wanted to reunite with his coach. But at the same time, he is the leader here of this defense. He has had success here. I feel like he's grown here. And, you know, the Lions would lose a big part of that leadership and a culture guy in Alex if he did leave. So you think about, how do you replace that? And, you know, that's a whole other topic to address. But, and we can get into this too in another episode, but you think of, you know, a guy that emerged in that linebacker room this year in Jack Campbell, and how much, you know, I'm not comparing him to Alex Anzalone, but how much he already stepped up as far as an impact guy. Might not be as great of a communicator and leader guy that Alex is, but you think of guys who could step up in his spot. But again, hard to replace somebody like that. So I don't know, this offseason chatter, you don't know what's real and what's not in these reports, but who knows what'll happen. It's hard to say, but from what I've seen, I feel like Alex does like being here in Detroit. So who knows what'll happen in the coming months, I guess, once free agency does start in March.
Yeah, based on some of the breaking news we've had, when it's announced, it'll probably be about 2 or 3 minutes after we end our show, and then we'll miss out on the breaking news. But we'll wrap it up with this. It's not necessarily breaking news, but within the last 15 minutes. Daniel Jeremiah has released a mock draft. It's never too early for mock draft season, and he has at the 17th pick the Lions picking Miami Hurricanes defensive end Akeem Messidor, who is one of many stud defensive players on that Miami team. And maybe this is just it probably is my own dumb brain thinking. I always think the players I watch more than other players are better. And so since he played for a team that was on TV a lot, he's got to be a better player than some of the other prospects. But I'm only half joking. But I said this last week that I love the idea of spending that first round pick on a defensive end. I talked about Cassius Howell last week for Texas A&M, who led the SEC in sacks, a production player. It's easy to look at the tape and see how much of a disruptance he was. But Bradford, I'll pass it over to you first. What do you think of Akeem Messidor in a Lions uniform next year?
Bring it on.
Yeah.
So, that's we alluded to it whenever Jim was talking. With Aiden taking 90 to 95% of the reps on defense, you signed him to what, 5-year contract? Am I correct in saying that? Was it a 5-year contract, Jake?
Yes,
I did it. 5 or 4?
4, yeah. Regardless, regardless. There's only so much tread a player has on his tire, and the Lions started working through that tread with Aiden Hutchinson this year, and they were going to get the most bang for their buck. Why? Because he was the best tire that they had to put out onto the field. And if they can have somebody that is productive and maybe ease it off, just a hair, and Jim put it best. He goes, reduce his reps by 10%, but yet get 15 to 20% more production out of him. God, now you're stumbling onto something. And I think that's what the Seattle Seahawks are doing with their defensive line. And it's just something to kind of lean on and do an off-season study on before the draft or even before free agency and see what's out there. But Jake, to your point, is getting a player of that caliber to line up opposite or possibly spell Aiden at the same time. It would be beneficial for the organization as a whole.
Yes, my eyes are lighting up at the thought of that, because there's just been too many times where the lack of defensive consistency can be traced back to exactly that lack of consistency on the defensive line. I also think drafting a guy in the first round to pair with Aiden Hutchinson from a rookie standpoint, developmentally, what better way to learn than you got, one of the game's best on the other side of you. You got an organization that has sustained a level of success that's been consistent. I mean, there's no reason a defensive end wouldn't thrive, in my opinion. But I know there's a lot of variables out there.
Right. I think, if you get Hutch some help, I think it'll only better him and help him thrive. You put a lot of pressure on the guy coming off of the injury that he was dealing with last year. And if he is taking 95% of the snaps, that's a lot on somebody to carry the load. And so I think, obviously it's been a huge need all season long, and what Lions fans wanted Brad Holmes and company to address. So I say go for it. Bring in some playmakers. We need them. So I'm all for it. We're all in tandem on this.
Yeah. Universally, is there any better night as a fan than the draft? You just feel like your team's gonna just like this is the answer. Maybe.
Can I counteract that or counter argument?
That's what a good Frank.
So now you're talking about as a true Lions fan. What's a better night than the draft? Well, I tell you what, a better night is celebrating the freaking Super Bowl win. That'd be a pretty good night as well. So,
yeah. How about guaranteed nights that you get during the year? That one we know we'll get.
Okay. But
I agree with you got me, Nat. That would be obviously the cherry on top.
Yeah. I mean, probably the best night for me would be, winning the lottery. And then, I'd still obviously do lockdown for the love of the game, for the, the love of the sport, because I couldn't imagine not doing this show twice a week. So I think that's where we tie a bow on this one. And, I stopped talking before I just, keep digging the hole even deeper. Final thoughts, Bradford Banta, Natalie, Kerwin, who wants to wrap us up?
Yeah, I'll be quick and I'll be brief. Jake, good luck. Pick the right numbers, and then we'll see you Wednesday, I believe it is. So
yeah, we got a Wednesday show, I think. Nat?
So long, Jake.
I'm off to buy some lottery tickets, winning lottery tickets right now, and to stay warm. But thank you all so much for joining us on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Just got to set your notifications up on the YouTube, because you never know when we might just reshuffle the deck and switch things up. We can't get too predictable here on the Locked On Lions squad show. So set up your notifications, subscribe, all that good stuff on the #1 sports podcast platform. Today's episode will be available audio only version wherever you listen to your podcast. For Bradford Banta, Natalie Kerwin, I'm Jake Riepma. Thanks so much to Jim Costa for joining the show. We'll talk to you on Wednesday, everybody, on a live Locked On Lions squad show.